BBC's disinformation correspondent and chief fact-checker Mariana Spring is accused of lying on her CV by falsely claiming to have worked with a Beeb journalist when applying for a job in Moscow. She's going to fit right in there, isn't she? She is going to fit right in at the BBC. So it turns out that the BBC's misinformation fact-checker lies so much that when Tony Blair and Peter Mandelson met her, they were a little bit taken aback and they said, "Mariana, calm down. I mean, there's got to be some limits to what you're willing to lie about." Mariana Spring lies so much that if she ran out of a smouldering Grenfell Tower whilst surrounded by flames, had to roll around on the floor while several firefighters sprayed her with fire extinguishers and performed minor first aid on her, when she got back up and patted the cinders out of her hair and said to me, "It was quite warm in there," I wouldn't believe her. I put mittens and a woolly hat on before I went inside. That is how many lies Mariana tells, and I'm going to go over some of them now. So let's have at it. Okay, first things first, and credit where it's due. This video was inspired by an excellent video by Spiked, and they get shafted almost as much as I do by YouTube. So go and watch this. Obviously, they do things much more seriously and by the book than me, so I figured I would make a version for those of you that prefer crass, comical, ad hominem attacks and juvenile humour. But you should go and watch it because it's a great piece, and I will link it in the comments below. If you don't know who Mariana Spring is, you can't have been paying too much attention, which is what the BBC hope, isn't it? Because anybody who actually does pay attention, i.e. gets the news from alternative sources rather than the BBC, The Guardian and Channel 4, people that think for themselves basically, they'll be well aware of who she is. Her Twitter page is genuine cringe. Like all Zoomers, 20-somethings, she's very, very narcissistic, and every story is all about her. You'd think that's one of the first things a journalist learns, right, is that the story is what people should be talking about. But Mariana, she loves making the story all about her. She even puts a name in all of the titles of everything. I mean, for example, Mariana in Conspiracy Land. She also loves self-promoting. And again, the story's about her. It's not about disinformation. Just look at the photographs, she gets dolled up for photo opportunities. And all of the headlines are quotes from her and about how heroic she is. The more violent the rhetoric, the more I must expose it. It's all about you, isn't it, Mariana? It's all about you. The annoying thing is how easy it is for the mainstream media to turn people into sort of quasi-celebrities. Ultimately, she's a nobody. And yet, as you can see, as she gleefully informs us all, she's getting shortlisted for all these awards. She's got a hit podcast. Love your work, Mariana. Fascinating stuff. So she gets plaudits and praise that she doesn't deserve, fawned over by the media class and the liberal elites that run the world, but seems to have made a career by complaining about how much vitriol and hate she gets, which is just the same old playbook, isn't it? When Cathy Newman was caught blatantly lying like a Chinese Rolex about Jordan Peterson and mocked across the entire world about it, she suddenly played the victim, and then the story became not Channel 4 journalist, state-funded journalist, lies like a hairy egg on television for all the world to see. Cathy Newman mocked by tens of millions of people who saw her for what she was. That story was vanished like a puff of smoke, and the story became Cathy Newman gets death threats. Well, we can all do that. I don't even believe them. I just think it's yet another lie. They might get one on social media. On social media, where it's low effort, where millions and millions, hundreds of millions / billions of people have got access to your profile. One person sends you a message like, "Oh, I hate you, kill yourself." And that becomes the story. When the story is, you're a liar, and you're a born liar, and everybody knows you're a liar. I've had loads of death threats. I've showed you some of my favourite ones. Usually from the followers of the religion of many, many pieces, or the tolerant, considerate, be kind left, who threaten to run you over with a tractor the second you annoy them. Anyway, back to Mariana. Like all BBC journalists, is so posh, she went to a posh private school, an all-girls posh private school, and is now listed on the posh private school website. It's Sutton High School, by the way, fiercely independent. She's now listed as one of their notable former pupils, alongside Helen Dunmore, Phyllis Mudford King, Alice Embleton, and now Mariana Spring, born 1996. BBC journalist. Journalist. I use the term very, very loosely. This story from the Daily Mail this month says the BBC's disinformation correspondent is facing claims she lied about her experience. It's not a claim. She has since admitted it, by the way, before anybody goes, ooh, it's the Daily Fail, which is also amusing, because just dismissing something without any argument, by simply dismissing it because you tell everyone you don't like it, only seems to work when the woke are doing it, right? You send them a story from the Daily Mail and they go, it's the Daily Fail, see ya, as if they can therefore ignore it. But the Daily Mail doesn't just make things up. The Daily Mail prints stories that they think will be of interest to their users. The exact same claim could be made for The Guardian or BBC or Channel 4. But nobody does that. If somebody sends me a Guardian story, I don't just go, it's The Guardian. I thoroughly read the story, digest all of the bollocks that they've wrote in it, and then ruthlessly rip the piss out of them for telling lies, but at least I point at the lies. I don't just instantly dismiss them and go, well, it's The Guardian, I'm not reading that. Far from it. I read The Guardian every day. I love The Guardian. The Guardian is the funniest comic since The Viz. Everything they write in there is gibberish. Insane, inane, commie gibberish. So it's the best paper in the world. You'll never get me slagging off The Guardian saying I refuse to read that. I love reading it, and I love reading the BBC, because it gives me a 12-hour rage boner that punches holes in my stainless steel desk. Mariana Spring shot to prominence because the mainstream media demanded she be shot to prominence, not because she's actually done anything. But she is now facing the embarrassing allegation she gave misleading information herself. One claim of working with a respected BBC correspondent to try and secure work. An article in the New European said she applied to the website's editor-in-chief, Natalia Antlava, in 2018 and said she'd worked alongside the BBC correspondent Sarah Rainsford covering the perception of Russia during the World Cup. The CV bragged, reported on international news during the World Cup, specifically the perception of Russia, with Sarah Rainsford. Miss Antlava called her out on it, and she quickly sent her an email responding for her awful misjudgment. Awful misjudgment is BBC speak for blatant lies. The BBC is just an ocean of lies. It is an ocean of lies, and Captain Mariana, is the dread pirate sailing on the black ship, plundering small, vulnerable vessels of truth on the BBC Sea of Lies. Arr! That should be on her Twitter bio. Mariana, arr! Avast ye scurvy dogs. I am here to plunder your arsehole of truth. And I don't want to bore you to death by directing to Mariana's podcast, because it's a shocking listen. But she just pushes the worst elements. The most untrue and obvious falsehoods that big tech and the mainstream media constantly push. Let's just quickly go over what we know, right? What we know has happened in the last couple of years for a fact, before I mention another nugget that Mariana pushed, knowing it was blatantly false, right? We know for a fact now, after the last few years, that big tech collaborated with the US government, FBI, CIA. Big tech collaborated with them to ban, silence and smear people that the government, the state, don't right? We know that little meatball-headed, foreskin-faced Fauci lied his arse off. We know he was lying on television and on the same day sending emails out saying, oh shit, we've been caught here, lads. We know that happened. The Twitter files exposed it. We all know about the laptop. We know it was real. And Twitter and YouTube and the US government all collaborated to tell everyone, no, it's definitely not real. So that is just a fact at this point. It's not me. I'm not making that up. That is now a proven fact, thanks to the likes of Matt Taibbi, the Twitter files, and 2020 hindsight. We know that happened. Mariana will tell you all of that is nonsense. It's all a conspiracy. It's all fake news, right? Because that's what she does. And she pushed this story. A quarter of the UK believe COVID was a hoax. Poll on conspiracy theories finds. The UK is home to millions more conspiracy theorists than people realise, with a quarter of the population believing it was probably or definitely a hoax. The findings on the eve of the first evidence session of the UK's public inquiry into the pandemic, which killed more than 227,000 people. Fake news, right? That's a lie, isn't it? The pandemic killed 227,000 people. Did it? Did it? How many of those people had existing comorbidities? How many of them were already ill? How many of them were motorcyclists who had a COVID test a week earlier, got over it, and then crashed at 137 miles per hour and got decapitated before being marked down as a tragic victim of the COVID-19 pandemic? How many? Again, we've got 2020 hindsight. None of this is me making shite up now, is it? We know what happened, and we know that they lie with statistics. These come from an April survey by Savanta for King's College London and the BBC. So what's the short version? Marianne's a liar. We know this. The proof is right there staring you in the face. The BBC lies for a living. Broadcasting House covered up for pedos and grooming gangs for 3 decades. Covered up for Jimmy Savile. Constantly is found to be on the wrong side of history when it comes to war, backing Tony Blair, lying about weapons of mass destruction, lying about paedophiles, rapists, pill-popping sex pests, everything that's awful you can think of, the BBC lies about. And then the cherry on top is they employ someone like Marianne Spring, who is a proven liar, to tell you that up is down and left is right. You're misinformed. Don't worry, we'll tell you what's going on in the world. You didn't tell us about the pedos, you didn't tell us about the rapists, you didn't tell us about the weapons of mass destruction and the chaos and the murder and the death and the rape, but now we have to believe you. Jog on, BBC. And as for those statistics, I think maybe 2% of the country might think COVID doesn't exist at all. It's really that bad. Maybe 1%. I talk to lots of people and almost nobody thinks that COVID doesn't exist at all. What people say is, what we've all said all along, is it's nowhere near as serious as you're making it out to be, so there was no need to enforce mandates or lockdowns, and we should have just got on with our lives. That's what people believe. Nobody thinks there's nothing out there at all, and the entire thing was fictional. Most people just think it was like a type of flu, and everybody made a mountain out of a molehill for nefarious purposes. But Marianne and the BBC want to tell everybody you're a moron and you're a liar and you don't know what you're talking about, so come and listen to us, the shielders of nonsense. the pedo shielders. Yeah, let's go to them for information. Cheers. If you think that's a good idea, well, go and see Dr. Harold Shipman, MD, for your next medical, is all I can tell you. Yeah, brilliant idea. That's like trying to go and get diet and fitness advice from Diane Aberpotamus. It's a shocking idea, and anybody with half a brain cell knows it. Anyway, the link to the Spike story is in the description. Please go and watch it. It's brilliant, and much more professionally edited than mine. So go and watch it. I apologise for the lack of content. I have been working like an antebellum cotton picker in the last few months. It's shocking, but hey, someone's got to pay for the illegal immigrants 3 squares every day, haven't they? So I'm like poor old boxer on Animal Farm. I can take it. You're all right, Marlies. I'll feed your kids for you. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like it and share it, and I will hopefully get the time to do a live stream this weekend at some point. All right? Stick around, and I'll see you then. Cheers.